it's time for hanging out with Helen. Join me as I talk to my friend Alicia, who is visiting Kenya. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm from the States, from New Jersey. I came to Kenya because I'm writing a book on missionaries. I am a missionary. I've done 2 missionary trips, and I believe the Lord is leading me to write a book to help those who desire to go on a missionary trip. Give them some background information, just some do's and don'ts, and also open their eyes to what they might be entering so they're not shocked. I've been on missionary trips where people have went home the day after we got there. So these are Christians, people of God. So I feel like the Lord, this is why the Lord led me to write the book, to educate and also inspire and encourage people to go on missionary trips.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you. Thank you for doing this with me.
I can't laugh.
This is the Kenyan way of, doing things. We shake hands and all this. So I have
Aren't you going to introduce your camera person? They're going to hear my voice.
Okay, guys. The person who is videotaping this is called Elizabeth with an S. And she's my small sister in Luya land, and her Luya name is Bubutsa. So she's behind the camera, but you can hear her laughs and you can hear her voice. So anyway, let's continue. So Alicia has introduced herself lengthily and in depth. So I'll ask you just a few questions, like what was your expectations before even you got to Kenya?
Okay. Some of my expectations were, so I have a best friend that's from Africa, and I also live in the U.S. where there's a lot of misconceptions. So I knew that I expected to walk into the city. I expected it to look like the city, like, lots of buildings and all this stuff. Because my best friend will tell me it's not like how it is on TV, and it's not the misconception that we have in the U.S. So I expected like a lot of buildings, city life, almost similar to New York-ish environment.
And when you landed, what was it like? What was your expectations? And when you landed, tell me about that expectation.
So when I got to Kenya, it was not the misconception we have in the U.S. and what we see on TV in terms of there's always, because there's like this, and I don't know if people necessarily believe this, but there is a misconception. When you think of Africa, you think of animals, and you think people running from animals, and people are like goat herders, just all this stuff where they get their muscles because they take care of all these animals. And that is the general misconception. Okay. I don't know how much people believe it, but what I saw when I got here was city life. It did have that city component to it, not too far off from the U.S. So it was basically what my best friend was saying. So in terms of the city life.
Mm-hmm. So just a disclaimer, guys. We live in houses. We don't live on trees. And we have running water in our taps, and we have bathrooms inside the house.
And electricity in the house.
Yes, and Wi-Fi. Yes,
and Wi-Fi.
Yes, Wi-Fi. Because I remember you could only send messages when you were in the house.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So what is the biggest misconception that Americans have of Africa in one sentence?
I think it's it actually depends on who. Okay, let's see. I think I would go back to what I said originally regarding how people live in Africa and how they function. Like, I think people see Africa as what they see it on TV. People living in huts, animals running around, people chasing animals, and people gaining their strength from that. So yeah, for the most part, because that's what's perceived.
As Africa.
But I don't know how many educated people really believe that, if you want me to be honest. But because they read and they, like they go beyond what the TV's showing them. So I'm not sure how many people believe that, but that's what is perceived.
Okay. So my camera lady, Elizabeth with an S, I'll ask her, what do you think people have a misconception? Just your voice. One day you will see her.
Well, I actually haven't lived in the U.S. for 12 years. Kenya is my home, so I feel a bit disconnected from what people perceive. But I think that it's kind of still a dark continent. Like when you talk historically about the African continent, it was always labeled as the dark continent. And I feel like there's a shroud of mystery that, there's like this sort of utopian idea of what Africa is, but it doesn't match that reality. Like, sort of the Black Panther Wakanda ideal,
Yes.
that is not what Africa actually is. In reality.
Yeah.
So, but there's a perception of either it's that wonderful or it's like really, really, really bad. Everybody's poor, everybody's starving, everybody has malaria or HIV. So it's one extreme or the other, I think. But I don't actually think people really think about it a lot unless it is personally impacting their life. And unless they're actually of African descent of one form or another, then I think that they have more of a realistic view. Yeah.
But anyway, I'll talk of Kenyans. Kenyans, we are very welcoming. We are very hospitable people. We greet strangers on the road. We give food to anyone. And I think that the misconception that I personally have, because I met someone who said, who I invited into my home, who was visiting Kenya also, and she asked me like so many questions, like, do you have water? Do you take a shower? Do you cook with gas? It was so much, but we've come from far, and where we are now, we don't live in trees, and we have decent housing, and we live like normal people. Anyway, back to your visit, because you are the focus, and thank you for visiting. What would you say are the differences, for my viewers, are the differences between Kenya and America?
You mean in terms of the environment or the people or the culture?
If you can touch on both, that
Okay.
would be wonderful.
In terms of the environment, there are slight differences. There are some differences in terms of when we went into town, there were like sidewalks, but here there's not sidewalks. So that's one thing where like, and I thought it was really cool how you cleaned the shoes. But because I was just like, wow. But because of not having the sidewalks, the shoes get so dirty.
Yes.
And we come in the house and you clean the shoes once a week. So I thought that was cool. So that's one thing that I noticed that was different. I think too, before I move on, is because I've been on a few missionary trips, I've encountered a few things which wasn't, like for instance, when we use a public bathroom. There's like, it's like a hole in the ground. And for that wasn't a surprise to me because I experienced that before. But for someone who's visiting outside the country for the first time, that may have been like a surprise.
Okay.
So that's a difference.
Why don't you describe
The toilet?
Yes.
Okay, so like bathroom in the house is a regular bathroom that you'll see in the U.S. The only difference is like you have to like a little switch to turn the heat on so that the shower. The shower is the same. Everything's the same.
It's called instant shower.
Yeah, instant shower. Yeah, yes. Everything the same as the U.S. But if you go to a public bathroom, there is it's in the shape of a toilet bowl, which is cool, but it's a hole in the ground in the floor, and they have like some of them have places for you to put your feet. So basically, what you do is you squat down and you urinate. Before you go in, you get toilet paper. They give you the toilet paper. You use your toilet paper. When you come out, there's like a bucket of water present with little buckets. So because it's a hole in the ground, you have to flush it. It's not nice to let someone else come in and use the bathroom if you just use it. So you have to grab the tub and grab some water and just throw it in the hole so that the next person don't have to be exposed to your bodily fluids. I think that's something that would be different. Yeah, definitely different to the U.S. Yeah. So that's in terms of like just environment. Culturally, it depends on where I am. Like if when I was up country, it's a little different than when I'm here. Mm-hmm. Like when I'm here with you in Nairobi, I don't see too many differences at all.
It's a pretty Western.
Yeah.
It's a Western bubble.
Yeah.
In Africa.
I don't see too many differences. Like even with the washing clothes and hanging it on the line, people do that in the U.S. So that's the only thing. And you have a washer. She has a washer. Like I don't really see much difference. We watch Forensic Files after lunch, after dinner, or during dinner. So I don't see many differences here. But when I went up country, at Helen's mom's house.
Yes, my mom's house.
It was very nice. So I loved it because I've just always been like this, where I just enjoy learning about my culture and other cultures, and also was raised a very hard worker. So it was I just loved it. Like, and I was raised with my grandma and my mom, so it was perfect for me. But when we got there, she had electricity,
which is fairly new in the house.
Which is new in the house.
Yep.
I think some of the difference there is that the kitchen is in the back, and the kitchen isn't the kitchen that you would see in U.S. Don't have a stove or oven or anything like that. She has these really iron pots, or iron, I don't know the name of them, but they're these iron, they're you can tell they're sturdy. And
we call them soforias.
Soforias, okay.
Yes.
And she makes her fire with matches and twigs from trees, and they put their pot on top of the fire, and that's how they cook, and that space is their kitchen. And we would call it corn in the U.S., but it's not corn, it's maize. They would not grill. Is that called grill?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they'll
roasted. It's roasted.
They'll put their maize, which looks like corn, but it's not as sweet as corn. But it still tastes good. They'll put that and roast that on top of the fire. So I sat with her mom while she was cooking some things, and I did that because I wanted the experience. I thought it was really cool. I really did, because there's it's almost like when we grill in the U.S., except that you don't have to grill. Like everything is like right in front of you, and the heat. I'm like, I know she feels that heat like on my legs. But it was a great experience. I loved it because that's a part of what. It's funny because like you vaguely remember seeing that on TV, but not so. It was not accurate shown on TV, but when I was present, it was more accurate. Like everything made sense. Like why she did this, why she, had this pot set up first, that pot set up first. Even when we sacrificed the chicken, which I did not go and see. I was like,
Okay, we did not sacrifice.
Well, not sacrifice, but
It got slaughtered.
it got slaughtered. Slaughtered the chicken, and
it was just a minute. It was slaughtered by the camera lady. She's a science teacher, so she's enjoyed slaughtering the chicken.
And enjoyed eating the same chicken.
Yes, so I thought that was cool. The fact that we slaughtered the chicken, and then, well, Elizabeth Liz slaughtered the chicken, and then we were able to wash it, and then it was just like back home. Like when I have to cook in the kitchen, I went back to that, except that it's different. It's just that I'm sitting on a stool and I'm washing the chicken, you know, in the pots and so on. So there is so many similarities, but the difference there was one of the big differences was the kitchen and the fact that it wasn't the way it is here in Nairobi. With Helen and Liz, and it's not the way it is at home, but I appreciated it a lot, and I think that everyone needs to have that experience. Black, white, whomever need to have that experience. I think it's important for people to come out of just their own space and their own culture and learn other cultures as well, you know what I mean, and to be wise about it, but go out, learn other people's environment, because you don't come across ignorant to other people and other cultures and individuals, and what you say isn't going to be, you know, coming from an ignorant place. So yeah, I loved Up Country.
Okay.
And what did I say? Oh, the people. I didn't see too many differences with the people per se. I mean, there was times when we went out, like I was told to be careful with this, like with my cell phone and things like that. I have to do that all the time in Newark, New Jersey, because that's where I went to school and everything. And I'll go to school there, and I went to school there, and I worked there. So that was nothing that was out of the ordinary for me.
And I just want to tell my viewers that Up Country is so cool because you get food cooking. It's almost like even the fire is organic, because you're starting the fire with sticks, and maybe the firewood has been organically smoked. So everything is recycling, and everything is organic, and the food tastes really good cooked on that versus food that is cooked on gas. But that's a story for another day, because I'm going to talk about cooking, especially, you know, African or Kenyan meals. So anyway, I'm glad you liked it. Now that I live in the city and I have all I have in the city, when I go back home, it's like I'm going camping. So even me, I also enjoy when I go home and it's firewood. So guys, the firewood is the 3 stones one, and you have to balance the pot on it, and you have to use your hands to cut almost everything, which she did great. High five. Yes.
We'll put some still pictures in.
Okay.
Yeah, into the video.
Yeah.
I also want to say
no, I've not finished.
I know, I'm just commenting that we'll put some still photos. I'll edit it into the video.
Yeah, so we are almost there. We have some similarities, right? You've said that there were some similarities and differences, and you've pinpointed on the differences mostly.
Yeah.
Country.
There is another similarity, is that which you will find, I think, anywhere in any country. You see people who are more wealthy and less wealthy. You see people who obviously can take care of themselves in terms of buying things and their home and stuff, and you see others who struggle to do that. So that you see everywhere, and that's also a similarity in the States.
Okay. Oh, really?
Oh yes. What?
Oh, people always say America is land of opportunity.
I think that's another misconception we should probably talk about.
The other way around.
Yeah,
there's
the other way around.
There's a lot of homeless people.
There's a lot of homeless people, a lot of poor people, a lot of people on crack, on drugs, and that's where, So, yeah. I have a charity for that purpose. There's a lot of people who do not have. Yeah. So, it's there.
Okay, so so what was your experience as a person? Would you come back to visit? Would you pin and say Kenya is a place to go? What is now your personal experience, narrowing it to you as a person?
For me, I would definitely come back to visit. I would come back to visit. Yeah, I would come back to visit. I also would like to come back into a missionary at some point in the future. Whether it is just me or me and others, but I definitely would like to come back and visit. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's a plus. And on that note, I'll say thank you for hanging out with Helen, and thank you for coming and
Welcome.
sitting with me and chatting with me. Please like, subscribe, and let's meet next week in my next video. I'm not going to say what it will be. It will be a surprise, and Happy New Year, all of you.